Hey everybody, welcome back to Conservation Psychology. This is an introduction to conservation psychology. We're now up to week 4, and we're going to talk today about identifying how to overcome barriers. Now, we've broken down over the last 3 weeks what psychology from the highest level is, all the way down to conservation psychology and how that fits in with what we're doing. Now, conservation psychology, as you will remember, is around about how we interact with our natural environment, not built up environments like cities, but our natural environment and our connectivity to nature. I'm going to bring it to a different level now, very specific or more specific to the Litter Club. And this is around how do we get people to engage with us even better, and obviously identify how we can overcome their barriers for them joining us in the things that we do here at the Litter Club. Now, there's a lot of words on these slides. I will go relatively quickly through them, but it's good for you to also read and understand and get the concepts that I'm delivering. So if you've not joined me before, and we're up to week 4, my name is Josh O'Neill. I'm the founder of the Litter Club. We are in Singapore, Malaysia. I'm currently in Thailand. And I'm also a member of Division 34 of the American Psychology Association, which specifically looks at environment, population, and conservation psychology. I'm a certified green project manager. That's my day job. I'm also a certified change management professional, so I do deal a lot in how to run non-profit organizations and volunteer organizations. I'm also a dive instructor, which has really got me into this, seeing what's happening to our oceans, and a Toastmaster as well. So why do I do this? I always like to say why I do it, and I do it to inspire others to change their conservational behavior. And this is really about, the nth degree. I started studying this because I wanted to understand why people littered. Everybody said it's because they're not educated and they're not aware and they don't know, etc. So it's been really interesting for me to delve into it and find out why, so that I can inspire people more to actually change their behavior and be more conscious of conservation. So the outline that we're going to look at today, now it's a big subject, so I'm hoping to be through it in half an hour, is around community-based social marketing. Now we'll look at the principles of behavior change, and then we'll look at knowledge deficit model. If we don't know what we're doing, do we still do it? We'll look at raising awareness about conservation, and then financial incentives, how they impact us. We'll delve a little bit more into community-based marketing from our targeting, how we target behaviours, how we look at barriers and benefits, which is really what this is about today, and then how we design a project or a program to actually fit around what we're trying to achieve. We'll then look at behavioural change, this is so dear to my heart. The tools of change that we have available, reciprocity, commitment norms, liking, scarcity, expertise, and then any prompts that we can use to be able to engage a greater audience in what we do. So let's have a look at the foundations of behavior change. So look, people act for reasons. We all act for a specific reason. These, sadly, are not necessarily rational, but they are predictable. And that's one thing about psychology, is we can fairly accurately predict what people will do and the behaviors that they will do. So if we look at knowledge deficit, now so many people say to me, well, people litter because they don't know any better. So that assumes that people don't act because they don't know. And we do act because we do know. So knowledge will correlate with behavior. Now that's a true statement. It will. If we are knowledgeable about something, then we know to do the right thing. Educational efforts will will lead to an increase in knowledge. That's true. The more that we educate people, the more knowledgeable they will become. Increasing their knowledge will cause a change in their behavior. That's sadly not true. What it means is that the more I know about litter, etc., does not necessarily mean that it's going to change my behavior and what I do with litter. So these are our traditional approaches we typically look at. We can improve people's knowledge, we can improve people's awareness, or we can make it economically impactful for them. So if we look at knowledge, if people know what to do, they'll do it. Now this does not translate or correlate to behavioural change, and that's really what we need to focus on. We need people to change their behaviours. So the next we'll look at is awareness and economics. So we know knowledge is not going to change the behavioural thing. Now here's a little look at some of the examples of knowledge transfer. The first one you can see on the left hand side, 10 easy steps to save energy and save money. You've probably done some of these, you probably are not still doing them, but you are aware and you are knowledgeable that if you do all of these things, you will save money. You can look at 3 ways to save energy. You can look at what you put in your bins, when you put them out, etc. Does that correlate exactly to you actually doing it? Not necessarily so. If you look at the top one in the middle, and this program actually ran between 2001 and 2010, this is Flex Your Power. $200 million US dollars was spent on this advertising campaign. One-time and repetitive actions were identified, websites, programs, etc. done. There was very little impact on behavioural change in getting people to upgrade to LED lights, change their timers on lights, etc. In fact, we'll go through that a little bit more. So knowledge is not a motive for behavioural change, sadly, but a lack of knowledge can be a barrier. So there is a fine line between what people know and what we want them to know. So our traditional approach is, again, awareness. If people know the severity of it, they will change. Now, we know the severity of continually using fossil fuels, etc. We are aware, we're educated, there is so much information in the media. Is that changing our behaviours? Sadly, it's not. So these are traditional approaches that we've used previously to get people to do things. So around raising awareness assumes that people don't act because they don't care. Now, this is one of the things that people say in regards to, oh, well, people just don't care, they'll just throw it on the ground. So attitudes are correlated with behaviour. That's true. So my attitude is, if I have a good attitude about litter, then my behaviour will be that I won't litter. Attitudes can be changed by providing information, media, TV, stickers, radio, in-person training, etc. Very true. Our attitude can actually change to it. We go, yeah, okay, I agree. Does that change our behaviour? And we've discussed this last week. Changing our attitude does not necessarily correlate to a change in behaviour. It might mean, oh, I don't like to litter, but at the end of the day, I'll justify why I've done it. So awareness messages often present the wrong norm. So what we're looking at here is what's normal for people. So what we're seeing is seeing others not act, and therefore if they don't act, it's okay for me to not act because that's classed as normal. And one of the classic things here is the tip jars are empty versus a tip jar is full. And if you've ever worked in hospitality, you know that you should put some money into the tip jar, and if you put lots in, people are more likely to actually put money in your tip jar compared to if it is empty. And here's a little example you'll see on the left-hand side. And these are some of the normative information we send out. You can see the houses on the right with all of the solar panels on there. You can see Don't Trash California, which again is kind of saying, hey, this is normal, but we should not be doing this. So it's sending that wrong information. Essentially, it's not. It's saying that it's normal, but it's not bringing it across in the right form of message. So our traditional approaches we can now look at is economic. So if it's in their financial best interest, they will do it. This is what we traditionally believe, and enlightenment, sadly, does not correlate to behavioural change. And we look at this, this assumes that people act to promote their financial self-interest. So if it benefits me, therefore I'm going to do it. But there's many things that get in the way of this. One is moral licensing. This is basically fooling ourselves to justify bad behaviour using another good behaviour. So I was good yesterday. We can do this with diet. We can do this with littering. We can do it with anything. Energy consumption. I was good yesterday, and therefore it's okay if I'm not so good today. This can also be like in a rebound where we might change our behaviour based on savings. We change our light bulb and we use a less wattage light bulb, but we leave it on for longer. There is a perceived saving. However, because we go, whoa, we're saving money, we tend to do it longer. What that necessarily then means is that you're not actually saving any money at all or saving resources or environment. Negative spillover, this is increases unwanted social, political, economic behaviours. I did it at work, so therefore I don't need to do it at home. I'm really good. I make sure that I recycle all my paper at work, but I don't need to do it at home, or my plastic bottles or my cans. And a lot of this comes back to the convenience side that we've spoken about before, and if it's convenient for me or not. Undermining, so these are incentives that may reduce our conservational behaviour. This is getting paid to do a clean-up, etc. And this may take away from the natural behaviour of what the person would actually do. Stop paying them, they stop doing it. And of course, there's other considerations, including equity and theft. If you make something incredibly valuable, then people are more likely to kind of steal it. So this is around behavioural economics and incentives. So again, we can utilize these things to get people to do them, but are we having continuous change or behavioural change being experienced? So let's have a look at some behavioural change alternatives, things that we can kind of do differently, and that is around the community-based social marketing. This is identifying the barriers and then identifying the benefits and how we do that. And this is typically what I employ throughout my work in project, or especially change management, identifying the barriers and the benefits. Now, this is grounded in behavioural science, so this is real facts, and we focus actually on specific actions and identify the barriers and benefits, and then specifically target them for effective behavioural change tactics. So this takes a little bit of real work to do, but it's easy to do once you start really focusing and getting involved. And it doesn't take a long time to do. Typically, when I go in to do some of this work, relatively short projects, and we can identify strategies very, very quickly, and get greater engagement and changes to behaviour. So if we look at community-based social marketing, or CBSM, we typically select a behaviour that we want to change. Yeah, so we want people to stop littering. We want to get them to not litter in a park, let's say. Now we look at the barriers and the benefits. What are the barriers? So as many barriers could be physical, the bin is not close enough. It could be financial, the bins are too costly to put in, etc. So there's many barriers, lack of convenience, lack of routine for cleaning them, etc. And then we find out what are the benefits. So if we do actually get people to stop littering, what are the benefits to them? Yeah, to make them walk a little bit further, or etc. So how do we identify those actual benefits? Because that will get people to do the action that we're asking them to do. Then we will develop a strategy. We'll pilot the test model, and then we'll implement broadly and evaluate further. We do this as agile as we possibly can, and test, so that we can really start to embed the behavioural change, and then look at the other indicators in there. Are people just doing it at work, or are they just doing it when they join us at the litter club, etc.? How do we then embed that as a habit even greater? So prioritising behaviours, so penetration, probability, and impact. This is the way we do the analysis on it. How many are already engaged? So if we look at the litter club, we have a percentage of people who are continuously engaged in cleaning up litter on a regular basis for Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand. How difficult, is there any room to change? Can we engage more people? And yes, we can, we always can. How difficult is it to change? We can look at our current methods and what we're doing to attract people to come and do it, and then look at changing that. And we may want to do greater accuracy for auditing. We might want to get more people involved, etc. There's many aspects involved with that. And then the impact, how much is change linked to the outcome? So what are our specific KPIs or our indicators that will identify that we've had an impact and behaviour has changed? And this could be additional people at cleanups, additional accuracy in auditing the litter that we collect. Many things can actually impact that, and we can identify what the impact is. So this is simple. This is around barriers and benefits. Barrier, I mean, this is basic. Anything that reduces the person's probability of engaging in the desired behaviour that we want. Now, this is all the way from the Litter Club, which is a non-profit organisation, all the way up to state, regional, and federal governments throughout countries around the world. What is the barrier? What is the desired behaviour that we're looking at? What are the barriers to actually get us to that point? And then, of course, the benefit, anything that increases the probability that a person will engage in what we want them to do. And this is psychology around conservation psychology, but also very much part of what I do in the change management field as well, looking at the barriers of why people are resisting change, and this could be transformational change within an organisation, identifying those barriers and then looking at ways of overcoming them and identifying the benefits so that they are articulated accurately to the organisation. Again, this is easy work to do if you are in this space. So let's have a look at barriers. Each behaviour typically has its own set of barriers. So if we litter, if we have a dirty park, etc., typically these are structural. These are things that we do continuously. So there is a structure to what we do and how we do them. We can look at external barriers, lack of access, the difficulty of going to a bin, the cost of the bins that are there, therefore there's not enough of them, the cost of cleaning the bins and changing the route so that our park is clean on a more regular basis, etc. And then, of course, there's internal barriers, knowledge, motivation, perception. Well, everybody else does it, so therefore it's okay for me to do it. And then that really affects everything we're trying to do. If we then look at the benefit unique to that person, but share it across the community, what are the internal ones? I feel good, there's a personal benefit, I get rewards. In Singapore, we have a fantastic organisation called Sustain. Every time we do volunteer work, we get 500 points. We can use that as discounts on products, and we can even use it to get cash to give to a local non-profit organisation. So this is good. We earn rewards for what we do, but it's not the pure motivation, but it is a benefit. And external benefits as well, there's social approval, there's environmental protections, community improvement, there's involvement, there's networking, there's many, many things that you can experience by going and doing a beach cleanup with us. So the first thing we need to do is identify the barriers, and then we create a program to be able to do that, and that might be enhancing what we do at the Litter Club to get more people to come with us. We can do literature reviews, best practices, what are other cleanup organisations doing, how are they doing it, and what impacts are they making, and what do their programs look like. We can go and hang out with them and observe them. We can check out existing data that we have ourselves and what we've done. We can run focus groups, which is what we do at the Litter Club quite often. We get groups of people together and ask them lots of questions, and then we can do surveys, webmail, emails, telephone, Zooms, etc. And then essentially we are focused on the top barrier, what's stopping people joining us at the Litter Club, and then the top benefit. So this might be why are people not using the Litter Club app, and then what's the top benefit for them if they do. And then we can use the social influence strategies. We'll look at that in just a minute, and increase their motivation for that selected behaviour. So we test, implement, evaluate. This is agile. Try, try, until we start to see the behavioural change that we've identified we need to see. So the principles of behavioural change. This now makes sense, right? Eliminate the barriers between nature and experience, so connect with nature. Yeah? Provide direct encounters with people, and then increase your engagement. Appeal to an egoistic motivational basis. So this is how we identify and start to build the programs so that it actually connects with people and connects with our intrinsic need for the connection to nature. So let's look at our social influence. Compliance refers to a change in behaviour in response to a request from another person. Please do it. Now, this could be a person of authority, or it could just be an inspirational leader. And persuasion refers to the changes in beliefs or attitudes. Remember, these don't necessarily change behaviour as a result of intentional pressure from others. It may be short-term, maybe not embedded, but it's like, hey, you shouldn't drop that there. This is an influence. If we all pick it up, then the place will be clean. This is more persuasion than actually saying, if you drop it, you'll be fined $5,000. So let's look at all the kind of different ways that we can use or we can utilize to actually get people to comply, or we can persuade them to comply to what we're trying to actually get done. There's quite a few to go through here, so bear with us. We know the reciprocation one. This is totally understandable. This is the old give and take. Yeah? So really, if somebody gives us something, we feel obliged to return the favour. Oh, look, here's a I'll buy you an ice cream. Next time I see them, you shout at me an ice cream. Let me get you a coffee, etc. So the rule around this, and there's rules for all of these, we should try to repay whatever the other person has provided us. So next time I see you, I'll buy you a coffee. Yeah, let's have a cake or let's do kind of whatever. So this rule is actually in all cultures across the world. We feel that if somebody gives us something for free, we need to also give them something back. So this could be free food, mailings, mail-outs, etc., giveaways. Oh, I'll give you this, I'll do something for you. So the strongest effect is when it's actually unexpected, like somebody just gives it to you out of the blue. When it's personalized to you, given with thought and intent, so somebody actually gives it to you. Here, Josh, here's a, you know what I mean, a plaque with your name on it, etc. And then also, if repayment goes back to the same person as actually gave it to you, this has the strongest effect. So, oh, Josh, remember when you bought me a coffee? Let me shout you one today. That's reciprocation. So this is one area of psychology that you can utilize to actually get people on board. Commitment and consistency is another one. There's a few here, and the rule around this is we feel the need for attitudes and behaviours to be consistent. We spoke about this last week, where we had this dissonance. If these aren't right, if our attitude yet our behaviour is different, like, oh, I hate littering, but I can't be bothered walking to the bin way over there, so I'll just hide it under the seat, right? So this is kind of the foot in the door type thing. This is, you know, even a penny will make a difference. So don't give me a buck, just give me a penny. It's giving that commitment. And then if you give a penny every week, then eventually it'll round up to a buck. This is really effective when your original commitment is active. Yeah? So if you are actually giving something, so it's rather than being passive. If it's perceived to be voluntary, oh yeah, I wasn't forced to do it. Of course I committed to giving a penny a week for them. If it's communicated publicly, so if we make a hoo-ha on social media, again, more effective. And if it's attributed to that person's character, wow, you're the type of person who really looks after our neighborhood, who's really, I turn up every week and do this because I've made a commitment to do it. And this could be in the form of a written, you know, commitment. You know, I, Josh, say that I'm going to turn up for the next 4 cleanups the month of May, and therefore we do that as that commitment. And then the consistency, not just do it once, do it multiple times. That's one way of changing behaviour. Let's look at social norms. So the rule around this, a tendency to see an action as more appropriate when others are doing it. So if somebody else is doing it, you know, Leonardo DiCaprio came and did a cleanup with me. If somebody sees them doing it with the litter club, then it's normal. It would be great to get out and also do it. So it's more likely to comply with a request when others have done so. So if we show that we've got 40 people last week, we're more than likely we'll get another 40 next week. Normative beliefs and behaviours. So it's a normal thing to do. If the belief matches the behaviour. I believe that we should not litter, and therefore I go and do something. If you look at canned laughter, this is a social norm. It works. We laugh along with canned laughter. And then you can look at things that they say on TV commercials, things like best-selling, brand leader, backed by popular demand. All of these things will coerce or allow us to engage further with an audience. Liking, something the rule around here, we're more likely to comply with a request from somebody that we like or know. So if you have an inspirational leader or maybe a boss or your family members, somebody that you like, somebody that you know, more than likely you will go along. This can be compared to things like Tupperware parties where you go to somebody's house and you know this person, they're a great neighbour, etc. You join one of these Amway or Pampered Chef parties, etc. Because you're there. You meet new people, but you're there mainly because the person who is running it is the person you like. So somebody we like, somebody who's familiar, etc. So liking is another way that we can actually look at getting people to, or persuading people to join us. Scarcity. Now the rule around this is we can't have what we can't have. We want what we can't have, or we can't have what we can't have because there's not much of it, and therefore we've got to get on board really quickly. So there's a psychological reactance here. Whenever our free choice is limited, like, well, we can go and do it whenever, then the need to retain control leads us to reassert ourselves, i.e., oh, only doing 1 cleanup this month and they're restricting it to 30 people? Oh my God, I've got to get my name on there because it's important that I do that. You can look at economic models as well. So limited supply equals high demand and therefore the increased value of that. And then different examples, limit one per customer. But I want two. While supplies last, I hope they don't run out before I get there, or for a limited time. All of these are able to be used to get people involved in what you're doing. Okay, one of the last ones, authority, or the last one, authority and expertise. So the rule around this, we're more likely to comply with the request of a perceived expert. Now, I'm going to run through an actual example here. So dentists, doctors, athletes, professors, scientists, if they tell us something, we're more likely to comply with what they're saying. Although with the amount of social media that we have at the moment, there's a little bit of a struggle because we're not too sure who these people are. But this was some research done on some stroke patients. A physician actually recommended exercise routines, and when in the hospital, everybody would do the exercise routines that the physician asked them to do or the doctor asked them to do. But when they leave, they're less likely to comply because now they're visiting a physical therapist instead of a doctor or a physician. And the physical therapists are not seen as an authority compared to the actual physician. Just the way we perceive things, perceived expert. So what researchers did was they changed the offices to put lots of awards and diplomas and certificates, etc. on the wall, and they found that exercise compliance actually increased by 34% because we then perceived that this was an expert in the field. Now it's quite difficult. I should probably put some awards, etc. up behind me here so that you perceive me as an expert, but I don't think I need to do that because I am an expert, I hope. The last one, prompts and signage. We can use these to engage and get people more engaged, but there's a few things that we really need to do. They have to be noticeable, so they have to stand out. They have to be self-explanatory, and again, this is where you have to test before you put a sign up, because otherwise people will just go, it doesn't make sense. They have to be proximal to the behaviour, like what we want people to do. They have to be positive and not use negative words, and they have to target simple behaviour, not complex. So context matters in this. So research example of neighbourhood watch, how we do that. There's some research examples of littering and butt boxes and rest stops that we look at when we're looking at doing this around the context of what is needed. So this is some of the research that we look at as we go through this to look at the prompts and signage. So when we're doing work for you, that's what we would look at. A quick little graph. I know there's a lot to take in, but if your barriers are low or high, or your benefits are low or high, if we look at the left-hand side to start off with our barriers, if we've got low barriers and not many benefits, then we can use social modeling, social norms, etc., to get people to kind of do things. If we go to the top right-hand corner, where we've got high benefits, lots of goodies coming in for people, but also a lot of barriers, we have to find ways of making it easy, and we have to find ways of getting people to sign and say, yes, I will do this, I will make a commitment. Whether it's a verbal signature, actually a physical signature is a lot better than a verbal commitment. Again, if you've got high barriers, a lot of barriers, and there's not many benefits, then that's when you would look at incentives, running contests, etc., to get people to obviously have some form of benefit if it's not there. If you look at the bottom right, you can see where you've got low barriers, not many things standing in the way of getting them to do it. Lots of benefits. Then, excuse me, you would look at educating, providing feedback, getting prompts and signage, etc., and maybe cognitive dissonance. So identifying what the difference is between their attitude and the behaviour that they're actually doing. So that's it. That gets us to the end of week 4. This is how to overcome barriers, how to really look at barriers, what they are and how they affect us and what we're doing. Next week, we're going to look at awareness of recycling or waste. The week after, which will be our last session, will be how to consume sustainably and appreciate philanthropy. I know I talk really quickly. If you need to go back and look at anything, please do. All of the writing is there. That's why I put a lot of words on the slides. It's almost like reading a textbook rather than just hearing me speak, because I know I speak quickly, but it's because I'm excited about what I do. So if you do have any questions at any time, feel free to just message me. Josh O'Neill, you can message me at thelitterclub.org. Josh@thelitterclub.org is my email address. You can WhatsApp or line me in Thailand, +66 966 396 252. Lucky you can read that and not listen to me. But this is what I'm passionate about. What can I do for other NGOs and organisations out there? Essentially, we come in and we do a quick evaluation of what it is that you need to do. We have a great structure in bringing this to you, and we make these relatively short-term, quick projects for you to be able to work more effectively in that change management, change behaviour, etc. Whether it's to do with litter, which is what we deal with a lot, or organisational transformation, which I've been involved in throughout my life, we're here to help. So look forward to seeing you next week. Thank you so much for spending some time with me. Really appreciate it. Take care and see you soon.